Welcome to myprojectbazaar.com. Let we discuss about the process validation of the inverse pulse wave transmit time series as surrogate of systolic blood pressure in MVAR modeling. Let us see the abstract of the process. ECG signals picks up the electrical impulses generated by the polarization and depolarization of cardiac tissue and translates it into a waveform. The waveform is then used to measure the rate and regularity of heartbeats as well as the size and position of the chambers. The patterns of the ECG signal for the normal and the abnormal persons differs. This differences is easily understandable by physicians. For automatic identification of abnormalities in ECG signals, the feature values were extracted from the signals and they were classified. The PPG signal is the measure of perfusion of blood to the dermis and the subcutaneous tissue of the skin. The combination of PPG and ECG signals were employed for the identification of the abnormality in the functionality of the heart. The statistical features such as entropy, largest Lyapunov exponent, dependent fluctuation analysis, and recurrence qualification analysis were extracted from the ECG signals. The RR interval in the ECG signal is calculated and they were used along with the statistical features. Finally, the pulse wave transmit time is measured combining the ECG and the PPG signal. So the pulse wave transmit time is calculated by comparing the ECG and the corresponding PPG signal. It gives the measurement of the time taken for a signal from aorta to the peripheral artery. PWTT is a measurement by finding the slope of the peaks occurring in the ECG signal and the corresponding baseline in the PPG signal. The calculation of the statistical features gives the feature values. The feature values were then used for the classification of the signals. Let me see the flow of the process. The ECG signals were first taken and it is basically denoised using the Butterworth filter, and the filtered signal is got. After the obtaining the filtered signal, the features were extracted based on the recurrence qualification analysis, largest Lyapunov exponent, dependent fluctuation analysis, and entropy. So based on these measures, the feature values were extracted. So these feature values were saved, and after that, based on the PPG signal, the PWTT is also calculated, pulse wave transmit time. So it is calculated by considering the ECG and the PPG signal combinedly. So first the PPG signal is got, it is also preprocessed using the same Butterworth filter. After the filter signal is got, the ECG and the PPG signals were compared to produce the pulse wave transmit time. For the identification of the pulse wave transmit time, the peaks in the both of the signals were identified and the detected peaks, differences between the detected peaks were calculated, and based on that the pulse wave transmit time is obtained. Both the ECG and the PPG signals has to be of the same person calculated at the same time interval. Such datasets were not available in internet, so we have just created the PPG signals of our own, and based on that only the calculations were done. So based on the comparisons of the ECG and the PPG, the PWTT is calculated. So after calculation of the PWTT, these features were combined with the test features resulting in the some values, particular values. So these features were then classified using KNN classifier as disease affected or normal. So these disease affected or normal signals were identified based on the labels provided by us for the classification methodologies. So we propose a classification methodology based on the features extracted from the ECG and the PPG signal combiningly. Based on that, the classifications were done as classified images were classified into original or not. Finally, the performances of the process is measured by measuring the accuracy, sensitivity, and the specificity of the processes. Let me see the running procedure of the process. If you want to run the code, select the file main.m, which is located in the source code folder. Right click it and click on run file. The browsing option will be started for the selection of the ECG signals. So here we can select any one of the signals which is presented in the datasets. So as we can see, first the original signal and the noisy signals were calculated, and after that, based on that, the parameters were estimated here and the results were displayed. So the parameters like we are measuring like the decimal exponential LAM, TT, T1, T2 are all measured, and the extracted values were displayed here, and the process will be displayed after the parameters has been calculated. The PPG signal is got. So here we select any one of the PPG signal. All the parameters were calculated and it is stored here. So after selection of the PPG signal, the PWTT value is calculated, and based on that the comparison chart and the PWTT estimation were employed. So here the signal is classified as normal signal. So likewise here the PWT calculation is displayed like that. So here the ECG and the PPG signals were got, and in the ECG signals the higher peaks, and in the PPG signals the corresponding lower peaks were calculated, and the differences between them were calculated, and the results is displayed as the mean PWT. So this is the PWTT obtained. So as we can see, the differences between the highest peak of the ECG and the corresponding lowest peak of the PPG is calculated, and the values are displayed here. So similarly, the alpha 1, alpha 2 parameters for all the videos were calculated. So the noisy PPG is calculated, and the denoised PPG is displayed. Similarly, the noisy ECG is obtained and the preprocessed ECG is got. So based on these calculations, the input waveform is detected as norm. Finally, the comparison is between the KNN classifier and other methodologies described. So comparing the number of the training samples, the accuracy value has been differed, and the graph has been plotted statically. So this is the overall process of the proposed ECG signal based classification of defects in the patients. So here we are using the PWTT measurements and also other the statistical parameters estimated from ECG signals. Thank you.